Me record. All right, we're good. Well, hello everybody. Thank you guys for being here. My name's Ben, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about what's going on here in this packet. So first of all, thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules just to come and learn more about what God is doing here in this ministry. All the information I'm also going to be recording, and then I'll send a link to it in our group chat so that you guys can still access it. But basically, the purpose of what I want to do today is I want us to make sure we're on the same page about really making room for growth, right? So the summertime, we always see this across all ministries, all campuses. There's a little bit of a lull, right? So, and we've seen that how we've had fewer tables fill up. A lot of the kids are on vacation. A lot of people just don't come to church in the summer, or kids are going and they're staying with grandma and grandpa for a month. What we have seen, though, it's interesting, is this summer we are pretty significantly up from last summer. And so what I think what that means, that's obviously a good thing. However, what that means is that once fall comes here and everybody's back in town, and then we get all of our rising sixth graders. We have a lot more rising sixth graders than we do rising ninth graders who are going to be leaving Uplink. What that means, we got to make sure that we're making room for growth and not just like making physical room. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this project over here in the this storage upfit, is that we can actually potentially grow our meeting space, but also just making sure that we as a team are able to sort of multiply our leadership team, make sure that as we are recruiting people, as more people are signing up to serve and going through next steps and all that good stuff, we just want to make sure that we have a good system in place to let people come and serve and be a part of what we're doing. We're basically just making room for more people to join our leadership team. And so if you look on this lovely packet, which I'm sorry, but it didn't do this gray color on the whole thing. I'm not sure why. Um, my OCD is kind of making that bother me. But it says CrossLink, which that's a hint of things to come. DCLA guide. Now, you guys have probably heard this terminology, DCL and A, used before. Really, what this is it's our like discipleship. We call it a discipleship pipeline here, right? It's not a hierarchy and it's not a set of rankings. So don't think of it in military terms as like, all right, D is like a general, C is like a sergeant. L is, a corporal, and then the A down there, he's just a private, not that important, whatever. The higher up you go, the more important you get. That's not how it works, right? This isn't like a hierarchy or anything. This is really just a way that we're going to organize our team to make sure that we all understand what our assignments are. When we first started out at Uplink, everybody kind of basically did the same thing. We would show up, interact with the kids, and then break up into tables. What we're going to have though is as our team grows, we want to make sure that we all understand like what our specific assignment is, and whether you're a director, a coach, a leader, or an apprentice is going to help determine what your specific assignment whenever you show up on a Sunday morning actually is. What we're going to start doing is most of you guys will notice that on the old name badges that you had, they probably said youth apprentice at the top. That has changed or is going to change, where if you've been serving for at least a semester, you're going to be a leader. So give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you, leaders, for leading. Y'all are doing an incredible job. But when somebody signs up to serve, right, it's their first time, they want to get involved in youth, they want to be part of what's going on here on Sundays. They're going to start out as an apprentice, right? And if you'll look over here to this next page, this kind of gives us a rundown of what a director, coach, leader, and an apprentice is. You guys can look this over if you want to. We have coaches for specific ministries. So, like worship, for example, Mia is a coach because she's leading like a specific ministry or a specific team in our ministry. Anthony, who's back there in production on Sunday mornings, he's our production coach on Sunday mornings because he's leading a specific team, in our ministry. But everybody else, everybody here, we're going to be leaders, right? When somebody starts out learning or when they start out serving for the first time, they're going to start out as an apprentice. And basically, what that means is we're just not throwing them to the wolves, right? An apprentice's job is just to come and to learn the mission, to really catch the passion that we all have for this ministry, to really catch the same vision that we all have for this ministry, and then to learn how we carry that out. So I used to work at Publix, the supermarket. Whenever I started at Publix, they didn't just immediately shove me out in the warehouse and say, figure it out. What they had me do is for several weeks, I would shadow somebody who knew what they were doing so I could see how the job was done. I could learn the Publix way, I could learn to tuck in my green shirt and not come to not come to work with my shirt untucked or whatever. I would learn all of those things during that time so that eventually they could let this little baby eaglet fly and go do his own thing. That's sort of what we're doing here with this system, right? So when somebody signs up to serve, instead of just throwing them in a room and being like, all right, you take care of these kids, make sure that they come out loving Jesus, right? What's going to happen is our apprentice is going to show up, and their job is literally just going to be to, one, catch the same vision and the passion that we have for youth, but then two, they're going to shadow a leader so that they can understand how we do ministry here and how we carry out the vision that we have. Where that changes y'all's role is when we have somebody sign up to serve, they're actually going to be assigned to a leader. Now, if you're not here every week, if maybe you serve bi-weekly or once a month, that's okay. I'll let you know ahead of time, like, hey, William just signed up to serve. It's his very first time. Hey Zeke, this week can you kind of be William's buddy? Just let him shadow you, follow you around, show him how things are done. So we're basically inviting people to come alongside us, learn how we do ministry, learn how we carry out the vision. Or if you're only here 1 week during the month, then the next week I might say, hey, Gabe Williams going to follow you around, and he's going to figure out, or he's going to shadow you. You're going to take him under your wing and kind of show him how we do things. Or if, like, what's a female name? Sarah. I don't know why that was hard for me to think of, oh yeah, right, right. Let's say Sarah has just signed up to serve second service. Instead of Sarah showing up and just being like, "Hey, here's your badge. Now go figure it out." We're gonna say, "Hey, Sarah, yeah, this is Katie. You're gonna be shadowing her today. Do what she does, watch what she does, observe and take in everything." And so where that comes in is like with our small groups, for example, you'll have an apprentice with you, seeing how small groups are led so that we can train them so that as we grow, when they become a leader after a semester, they can lead their own small group. Does that sort of make sense? Our apprentices are coming in just to learn our mission, just to catch the same passion that we have, and then they're going to be assigned to a leader so that you guys can, really help them catch our call and catch our culture, all those things that are important. Now, you aren't going to have an apprentice every single week. It's just going to depend on who we have, signing up to serve. Whenever the fall semester comes, typically we'll have about 1 to 2 people each week, sign up at least just to kind of gauge interest in youth ministry. So what that means is that each semester you'll probably have about one apprentice coming under you to learn how ministry is done and how we do things here at Uplink. So what that means, just be ready. Just be ready to not just lead, but be ready to show others how to serve and how we serve here. A part of that, though, is I want to make sure that we are properly defining our roles. And so if you look here at this next page, one of the things that we're going to see is like every team member is going to serve in sort of a dual role, right? So if you look at on a Wednesday night, for example, when we have groups, next door they have people whose job it is just to lead a group, and we have people whose only role it is to serve in like hospitality or first impressions. Well, we're not big enough so that we can really split our team like that. And so what that means is that all of our leaders are really serving in this sort of two-pronged role. The first thing is this sort of guest services aspect. One of the things that's so important, if we don't do anything else here, I want every single kid who comes to know that every single leader was like genuinely excited that they were here and really, really glad that they were here. That's so important to me. And I think that if we don't do anything else, because to be honest, if we don't make that connection with them, right? If we don't build that trust with them, if they don't know that we're happy that they are here, they're not going to listen to anything that we have to say, right? We have to build that connection. We have to earn that trust in the same way that if you go on go to downtown Raleigh on a Saturday with a megaphone and just do, old-fashioned street preaching, that's great. And you will have responses from that, right? Even though you're, preaching to hundreds and thousands of people, that's still not anywhere near as effective as just discipling people, right? Making friends in our community, making friends with lost people at our works, at our jobs, right? That sort of thing. Making friends at school and inviting them and discipling them and sharing the gospel with them. That's a much more effective way to evangelize than just doing this sort of broad blanket method. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's the principle is the same here, where the most effective way that we can reach these kids is first creating an environment where they know that they can trust us. We're not just trying to recruit them for like our, for our group, right? We actually care about them. We care about their eternal souls. And so that's why we're doing this. And so that's really the first aspect of our leadership role here is to really create this hospitable environment where every single kid knows that they are genuinely welcome here and that we are sincerely glad that they came here, and just creating that culture. So one of the things that you guys do a fantastic job of that I want to encourage you to keep doing is whenever you see a kid by yourself, you go up and talk to them, right? If you see a kid who's, by himself or by herself, you go up and you say hello and you introduce yourself and you find out their name. Remembering names is so important. It's so hard, but it's very important. Learning things about what they like to do. What sports do you like to play? What are your hobbies? What are your interests, right? And then when they come back, remembering that, and so you can have that kind of point of reference to make that connection. That's something that you guys are really great at that I would encourage you to continue doing. Or even as kids are coming in, I'll be honest, I can't remember most of our kids' names, right? And it's one of those things, it's the problem. I have the problem here in youth that I have with the church at large, which is like, I can't remember if it's somebody's first time here or their 500th time here. But that's still not going to stop me from, I can high five a kid, I can fist bump a kid, I can tease a kid, whatever. If there's a girl that was carrying around a bag today that said Bible on it, and I said, "What do you have in there?" And she had to explain to me that she's carrying around her Bible in a bag that says just stuff like that. And I don't know if it was her first time here, if she's been here before, but still, I want to make that connection with them just so that they feel welcome, that they feel seen, that they know that they're not ignored. So keep on doing that. And then one of the most important things I really want us to start doing is I'm going to give you two different examples. Let's say that there's an 11-year-old little girl. She's just graduated from kids church. She's just come to youth for the first time. She's scared. All the kids are older than her. They're bigger than her. She doesn't know anything. All of her friends and the teachers that she loved are back there in kids church, right? Let's say she comes to Uplink for the first time on a Sunday morning, and one of you guys comes up and introduces yourself and learns her name and finds out what her interests are, right? That's great. But imagine if she shows up for the first time and a 12-year-old girl and a 13-year-old girl and another 11-year-old girl come up and introduce themselves to her, right? And learn her name and exchange contact information and learn each other's interests. In that first example, right, where a leader talked to her, that girl is very likely going to come back, right? She's almost certainly going to give our ministry another shot. But in that second example, I almost guarantee you that we have somebody who's going to be a part of our ministry until she goes to high school. Does that make sense? And so a big part of that is when you see a kid by himself or by herself, saying, grabbing a student that's been here before and introducing them, right? You see a young man that's by himself. Hey, Timothy, it's your first time here. Hey, you'd really like this guy, Edgar. Hey, Edgar, this is Timothy. This is his first time here. I don't know why I picked those names, but which you guys, you guys connect, talk, make friends. What we're going to do is we're going to build that culture, not just among our leadership team. We're going to build that expectation among our students that not only are we excited when there's a new face here, but the kids that are in our seats are excited whenever there's a new kid here. And that's something that's going to take time, right? It's going to take time. It might take an entire year before we sort of build that expectation. But that's something that I really want us to all agree to, that we're going to build that culture and build that expectation that we're not the ones who are just doing ministry. It's these kids that are able to minister to each other, and maybe they don't know their Bible very well, or maybe they're new to the faith, or they have questions. they can still be a friend to somebody, right? They can still be a friendly face. They can still be welcoming to somebody. And then the other aspect of that is these kids that we have here, they can go where we can't, right? I have a lot of the young boys that are at my table or the young boys that I connect with, on a Sunday. I can talk to them on a Sunday morning. If they have a baseball game, I can go and see their baseball game. I can't go to their house and play video games, right? Same thing with you guys. If there's a young lady who's at your table that you've really connected with, you can be friends with her here. You can, go and support her cheer competitions or her swim competitions, but you can't go to the mall with her and hang out. But these kids can, right? These kids can. And so really what I want us to do is not just have that expectation for ourselves that we're glad that kids are here and we want to welcome them, but have that expectation for our students that we are all as a community, right? As a ministry, every single person involved is glad whenever we have new people, or we are really really happy to be a friend to somebody who doesn't have a friend or be a buddy to somebody who doesn't have a buddy. Does that sort of make sense? So that's the first element of that role. The second thing is obviously groups, and you guys always kill it with that. I'm going to give you guys the small group guide ahead of time, right? And that's just a starting point. So, in all honesty, if you guys start, the only thing I would ask is that you end in prayer, right? If you guys start a discussion and you really feel like the Holy Spirit is taking it, like within reason, don't just, I know that we talked about loving your neighbor, but let's talk about the Nephilim today, right? But if there's going to be times where the Holy Spirit is going to take the conversation in a different direction, and don't be like, all right, well, Susie, I know that you really want to talk about, what's going on at home, but Ben said that we have to talk about, the Nephilim or whatever. You don't have to do that, right? Allow the Holy Spirit to guide the conversation. And this is just a starting point. I think that the most rich and fruitful conversations that we'll have are those times where you're shepherding and you're letting the kids lead, right? You're leading, right? And you're shepherding, but really you're letting the kids guide the conversation because that's how you're going to gauge where they're at spiritually. Um, so that's really our, again, sort of two-pronged role is we're all here doing guest services slash hospitality. And then the other element of that is, small groups. If you look at this next page, we have our apprentice responsibilities. I'm just going to read this. It says primary responsibility is to learn our mission, develop into a leadership role, right? So our hope is that after a semester of serving, if they've shown themselves faithful and they're consistent and that sort of thing, that they'll become leaders as well. They're going to be assigned to a leader. And that doesn't just mean that like they're going to sit there and as you guys serve, they're just going to stand there and like watch you guys, right? And like, I'm just taking it all in. Just take, they're not going to do that, right? They're going to minister along with you guys. And then they're expected to learn how to execute all these responsibilities that we just covered effectively. So whenever you have an apprentice coming under you, you're going to say, hey, one of the things that we found really works is when we have a new kid here, we try and find two or three kids of the same age and connect, let them connect so that they can make friends, just that sort of thing. Um, Next page, of course, leader responsibilities. Again, you guys know this. You're both an executor or an executor, and a developer, right? So not only are you guys doing the ministry here, right, of creating that hospitable culture and environment, and then leading groups and leading discussions, but you guys are also developing our apprentices to be able to do the same. So it takes intentionality, right? It takes whenever you have an apprentice with you who's watching you and observing you, taking those moments to say like, hey, here's what I just did and here's why I did it, right? Or following up after a small group discussion and be like, hey, I know you saw me cut that kid off when he started to talk. Here's why. It's because he started to talk about something that these other kids, we don't want them spreading around. And so I kind of called an audible there and said that I'm going to talk to him after, right? Explaining the how and also the why of what you guys are doing. So you guys are going to execute those key responsibilities, develop our apprentices to do the exact same. And then you'll see that in our very last page here, it says, where are we going? Where are we going? Um, what I want to do eventually is maybe it's going to be next semester, maybe it's going to be in a whole year from now. As our team grows, we'll have designated groups and guest services roles. So the hope is that you guys won't have to come and kind of wear two hats. We'll have somebody who's able to take that guest services responsibility, and they're just able to show up and welcome our kids and interact with our kids and connect with our kids and really build that hospitable environment while some of our other leaders are handling the group's responsibility. Right now, there's not necessarily a need for that just because our team is small enough that we can do both. And then our ministry is small enough that we can do both. But definitely, as we continue to grow, that's where we're going, is we're going to have, so like when you get a serving request on Planning Center, it's going to say, Ezekiel, you have been scheduled to be, Sunday morning group leader at 9 a.m., right? Or it's going to say, Riley, you've been scheduled to be, guest services, technician. I know we don't use that word, but for 9 a.m. or whatever, right? So we're going to split that role. One of the things that we are going to do in the month of August, I really want to give this area, but more so our area back there. I have to actually come in and vacuum up all the pie crumbs up here, but that's another thing. But I want to give that area out there a little bit of a facelift. So make our signage better. So I would love to have like a big sign that says new here, start here, or something like that. So that as people come, if it's their very first time, they know exactly what to do. They know exactly where to go. Same thing, like I would love to have an actual welcome desk here where we can have like gifts to give our kids, have a team, that's here to connect with kids if it's their very first time. That's something that I want to do this coming semester once we kick back up in September. That's really something that I want to do, is have like a really, really good quality welcome desk with a team of people there that can connect with our kids. Increase coordination with kids ministry. One of the things that I'm doing is during the month of August, which we'll talk about August in a second, but I'm going to go over and teach in kids just so that our sixth graders who haven't, been here before, that's when we lose a lot of kids. A lot of kids will graduate sixth grade and then they'll go and sit in service with mom and dad, or they'll stay and serve in kids. And we don't want to see that, right? We want kids to be comfortable aging up and coming into our ministry. And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing is going and teaching over there some, but then just having more communication between us and kids. And that's something that I want you guys to be on the lookout as well. Is we're going to see a lot more little kids coming up here, right? They just turned 11 a month ago and they're going into sixth grade and that sort of thing. Be really intentional about catching them when they come in, because I don't want kids to come in, take one look and say nope, and then never come back here, right? So, because we really only get that one chance, right? Very rarely is a kid going to come, not like it, and then decide that they're going to give it another shot. The only time that they'll do that is if their mom or their dad forces them to, right? What I would love is for a kid to come here for the first time, absolutely fall in love with it, not because of the games, not because they played church ball in the cage, not because there's pies and faces, but because leaders and students were intentional about connecting with them and serving them. And then the last thing, this is big drum roll, big reveal. We are going to be officially changing our name. It's a huge, huge, huge change, and it's going to be a very, very hard name to remember. Instead of Uplink, it's going to be CrossLink. CrossLink. You guys see that? Now, the reason why we did that is because when Uplink first started, basically what it was is it was a way to, they would allow fifth graders to age up and to join the middle schoolers, right? And so it was like up, and then link, like you're connecting with each other. It's funny because link is what Pastor Ashley, he was our youth pastor here, like at this point, 12, 15 years ago. He had a Sunday morning middle school service called The Link. And so it's kind of like a nod to that. But since we don't have fifth graders aging up anymore, that's something that we stopped last year. Now they have to wait until this summer before they turn, or the summer before they go into sixth grade to be able to join Uplink. I had people ask like, "Hey, like, what's the up in Uplink mean?" I'm like, honestly, I don't really know. So we're just going to shorten it to CrossLink. This is, you guys can pass this around. I'm going to show our camera so they can see it. This is not our official logo or anything like that, but this is that's kind of like a prototype. It's going to look something like that. I'm in the final phases of developing this aka letting somebody who knows how to do that sort of thing develop it. And so yes, thank you very much, thank you very much. And so that's something that's obviously we're going to still call it uplink, I'm sure, for a long time, and then catch ourselves and be like, I'm sorry, it's just crosslink. But that way it kind of helps us because we're under youth ministry, right? But when we just say uplink instead of like, crosslink or whatever, it sounds like we're our own thing. But when we call it crosslink and we share the same logo as them, whatever, kind of gives us that continuity with, yeah, you can keep that, Gabe. Keeps that continuity with youth ministry. And then it's just easier because we don't have to explain, well, it's called uplink because, it used to be, kids could age up, but now they can't, and we just kept the name or whatever. We're not going to be doing that. Does that make sense? Cool. I'm going to pause the video here because I